Lee Aaliya has emerged. I kept waiting, as many probably fans of teams across the country kept waiting. Who's the late ad, right? Who are you going to lock in on when your team has two open scholarships and you're desperate? Who's the random overseas guy this year? Well, now it's Lee Aaliya. I think I'm saying that right. I think in some of the videos I watched that had other language speaking announcers, they called him Lee Aaliya. So I'm just not going to attempt that. Don't blame me if I'm botching this. But Argentinian forward/center. I watched as much tape as I could watch on him in the last day because Michigan is after him, as are Providence. The early reports are that those are the two schools in consideration here, but obviously other teams can emerge and this could go anywhere. He looks pretty good. He's a guy that supposedly is quote unquote on NBA radar, not a guy that's like an automatic one and done or will get drafted this year, but from what I've seen, it's backed up. Like he has the physical frame and the athletic gifts of a guy that I think would be on NBA radars as far as international prospects go. What are your first impressions? Let's throw it to Cart first on this one. Is this a guy, one, should Michigan like do everything in their power to get him? And two, would he really move the needle for wherever he ends up next year?
Yeah, I do think that it's someone that Michigan certainly should get, and I don't even think it's like a just to put it in Michigan State terms. I don't think it's like a we're in a desperate situation. We'll add anybody, so let's add like Carson Cooper, and not to disrespect Carson Cooper, but Carson Cooper's offer list was besides the layoff from Michigan State, it was like Vermont and some other small like American schools. I think that this kid can really play. He strikes me just from the small film I saw as an elite rim running and pick and roll big. Like when they got the rebound. Now, one thing I will dock him for is that he wasn't getting a lot of rebounds in the film that I saw. But when somebody else was getting the rebound, I mean, he was right to the front of the rim, sprinting, sprinting, sprinting. And whether he was getting the ball and finishing or in the pick and roll, the guard was getting the shot up on the rim, he was getting in, rebounding outside his area and finishing everything. So, I mean, I think I can see why he would be on NBA radars. I mean, like you said, he has a physical frame. He's a rim running big, and I think he's pretty solid defensively. Nothing on the film I saw. Maybe you guys saw something else that I didn't see, but nothing defensively that's like, oh my God. But I think that he has the ability and the tools to do so. And looking at him, if he did fit with this Michigan team, I think that it wouldn't necessarily be a him or Terrace situation in my eyes. I think they're bigs that bring two totally different things. Terrace isn't a rim runner to me. Terrace is a low bruiser, throw it to him in the post, carve out space type of big. He's a different type of big to me. He's a rim runner, like I said, more athletic is kind of where I would put it. So I think it'd be a great ad for Michigan, and I think it would fit in because you could go in Kamwa Aaliyah, or you could go in Kamwa Reed. You could go neither of them, put in Kamwa at the five. They can give you like a little bit of versatility and differences with big. So I think it'd be a really good ad for Michigan.
Tristan, you're a message boards guy. What do the message boards say on Lee Aaliya?
Yeah, it's one of the new frustrations in the offseason because there's like been this rush of international guys committing, and every one of them, people are saying, "Oh, he's a potential pro prospect. He's someone that's highly coveted." And my thing is, are these guys being coveted because they're legitimately good, or is because the transfer portal dried up and now these are the new options left? And it's not just for Aaliyah, it's for all of these guys. So and some of them could be great pros, future pros, or some of them could just ride the bench and be a waste of a scholarship. If you're Michigan, you don't really have another five on the roster. Like you can play Nakamura at the five, but if everyone says that he's the best power forward in the Big Ten, why not play him at his strength and play him there? Why move him around and potentially have him guard big so he's not necessarily going to be able to? So if there's 40 minutes available and you have Reed, who can be a foul merchant at times, put Aaliyah in there, and from what I saw, he's a guy that can score and produce without having plays called for him. And that's always good for a big man when you can just have good energy and not necessarily have to rely on your athleticism to just be at the right place at the right time. So yeah, if you're Michigan, absolutely go for him. You can make the case that there's minutes available, although the same thing can be said for Providence because they're going to lose Will McNair and Josh Oduro, and Reed's going to be a sophomore. And that's tricky with these recruitments because is Reed going to be a breakout star? Is he someone that could potentially go pro early? Is he not that good and possibly someone you have to recruit over to begin with? It's going to be a tricky recruitment if you're Juwan Howard, but I think you can argue that Reed's never going to be a 30 to 32 minute per game guy. He's probably going to be around 20, 22, and there's going to be 15 to 18 minutes available for him if he comes in, and it allows Michigan to play all their bigs at their proper positions. You can have Trey Jackson at the 4, Nakamwa at the 4, Will Shetter and Terrence Williams somewhere on the roster. I don't know what you're going to do with them, and I think it might be a quiet indictment of how Juwan Howard feels about the front court rotation outside of the top guys. But yeah, it would be a nice pickup for them. I'm just not so sure if they have a better sell than Providence.
Yeah, I think it would be a loud indictment of how he feels about Terrence Williams and Will Shetter. This would be the third power forward Michigan has added out of 4 transfer portal ads this offseason. This is a roster that still needs a small forward. They don't have one. Yusuf Kai is the only wing on this roster, and he's about to add his third power forward if he lands Lee Aaliya. That definitely says something about Juwan Howard's roster building in general and his inability to get a positionally balanced team put together. But it also is him learning from mistakes, because last year they didn't have a playable power forward. Next year's roster might have 3.
Is he for sure a 4?
He's a 4-5, but I don't think he's big enough to be a Big Ten center. Okay. He's bouncy, athletic enough, but I think his most natural fit is like an overpowering, bruising 4 than it is a small ball 5. Gotcha. I would say this about Aaliya. I buy him as a prospect, and I don't buy every international prospect. I think he's good. I think like there is something to be said with the fact that on the Argentina team he's been playing with at FIBA, like he's been their best player. He's been their best prospect. Ask anybody in that world. Like, it's like, oh yeah, Aaliyah is the best prospect in Argentina right now. That says something to me. He's been functioning as if he is like the go-to guy on that team. I like that. If I'm him, back to your point, Tristan, I don't view Michigan as a team with a bunch of great opportunity. Like, I think he could come in and play minutes. He probably would have to because they don't have a backup center. But I would view Kamwa as a guy who's going to play 30 to 35 minutes across the 4 and 5. I would view Terrace Reed as a guy who's going to play 25 to 30 minutes. I know it could be less with fouls, but like those 2 guys are Big Ten starters that aren't going to come off the floor much. I think Aaliyah would be competing with Trey Jackson for backup minutes at Michigan in year 1. I hope Michigan gets him because it would definitely bolster things. They need a backup center desperately. It would balance the front court roster a little bit. But if I'm Aaliyah, I think I see bigger opportunity at Providence than I do at Michigan. What are you going to say, Cart?
Well, the thing is, what's going to happen if he goes to Michigan, right?
What?
He's going to play extremely well, show some things, work his way somehow to a first-round draft pick. He's going to leave, but it's going to make Terrace Reed upset, and Terrace Reed leaves. And then next season, Will Cheddar's your starting 5.
It could happen. It could happen. I look at Michigan right now. I'm not thinking more than 6 months in advance. I don't know that my coach even wants to be here further than that. So just get me through the season. And I do think Aaliyah would help. Last thing, his quote NIL agent is Bam Adebayo and Giannis Antetokounmpo's agent. So one that says like, okay, this kid actually is basically signed by someone that is representing superstars. That matters to me. And 2, there's a theoretical Bam Juwan connection here.
So you're telling me that an international prospect is represented by an agent who also represents some international prospects in the NBA?
Listen, there's a lot of international prospects out there. Do they all get signed by Giannis and Bam's agent? Do they?
You're better than that.
Is Mady Sissoko signed by this agent?
You don't got to do that. Why you got to go there? Why is it always I go low?
Listen, man, Mady's a starter on the 4th best team in the country, and he puts schools together for children. That's incredible. Why has someone not signed Mady Sissoko?
Wait, but just and I can't believe in this rare occasion I'm going to be on Carter's side, but I remember.
Listen, just get on my side without the first point, but cook.
Yeah, but I just remember a year ago when Yusef Yo-Yo signed to Michigan, and Greg, you just had multiple videos talking about the impact he's going to have, and he played about 8 more minutes than I did last year at the D1 level. So are you sure you want to hype up this guy and get your heart broken again? Because I don't want that for you.
I don't feel like I'm hyping him up that much. I definitely did hype up Yo-Yo because, I mean, we had, not to name names, throw people under the bus, but we had Brandon Goebel on the show to tell us about Yo-Yo because he knew him and he was gassing him up like he'd be an impact guy. That obviously didn't come to fruition. Part of that, in my opinion, was the Jet and Kobe were top 15 NBA draft picks. So there weren't a lot of minutes available at the 2 and the 3 for Yo-Yo last year. But
no,
also,
that wasn't the issue. That wasn't the issue. He just wasn't very good. And you need to take accountability for hyping him up unnecessarily. And you're about to do it again if you don't lose to Kim English in a recruiting battle.
I'm not doing it again. I said he's going to be a backup at best. Is that hyping up?
Then why are you even talking about a backup at best for an NIT roster? This is just.
Why are we talking about him?
Why is just? I just don't understand. I don't understand why we're talking about Michigan basketball, but they're not even going to be good next year.
Is this the Tristan we get when they win one tournament game? Because it's gonna be bad news when they're like a single digit seed.
I don't understand why we bring people on the show who can't figure out how a mute button works. Good God, Tristan. All right, let's move on.